Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Live Boldly with Sarah. I hope that the beginning of your 2025 has been amazing, that it has been the best beginning of the year ever in your life. It has been for me. And I share that with you because, in 2024, I was creating the foundation for what was next, stepping into keynote speaking, workshopping, working with leaders, teams, executive coaching, doing, yes, running retreats, but very differently from the way that I had in the past, even though I am running some of them the same way that I always have. So there was a lot of shifting and changing going on. And the payoff has been amazing. It is day 5. I want to share some really good news with all of you. And I want to share it with you because I want you to understand that for those of you that are stuck, that are doing the hard work right now, creating that foundation, building those bricks, there's a reason for it. And the payoff is big. Whatever success means to you, whatever it is that you're building and creating right now, I promise you, the way out is forward. It's about descending into the change, into the challenges, and ascending in agility, resilience, and lasting growth. This is what I talk about all the time. The way out is forward. That is my quote battle cry. And I will stand on that forever because if you've been following my journey over the last 11 years, there have been many transitions, many transformations. And I would not be who I am today, where I am at in 2025, had I not done the hard work myself. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're wondering if I'm ever going to get there, if you're wondering when is my time going to come, keep moving forward step by step. And I promise you, you are doing it. You are creating that foundation for your own success, whatever success means to you, for your own success as well. So I want to share a really fun story with you. Joe, myself, and we took my son, Christian, up to Washington for looking at colleges. We left on the 2nd. Today is the 5th. I am doing this on the 5th, Sunday the 5th already. Can't believe that. We left on the 2nd. We flew up to Washington. He was going to meet with some coaches, watch some basketball games at these universities because he's going to be playing college ball, and he's really diving into where does he want to play? Where does he see his fit? Where does he see himself playing? Where he can bring to the table what it is that a team needs, and also where he wants to have his education. So we've been traveling around, taking a look at these different areas, places, and taking inventory, right? So he's been talking to some coaches, and we went to go visit Western Washington and Seattle Pacific, along with, doing a bunch of other stuff while we were up there for those 3 days. So this story is hilarious. So one of the coaches that he was texting with, he wanted to meet the coach and he wanted to have a tour of the facility. Could I see the gym? Is it possible for you to show me, what the rec center, what it all looks like? And he was like, oh man, we're traveling. We got a lot of games this week. I'll see you at the game and I definitely want to meet you. Unfortunately, my time is very limited and I'm just not going to be able to right when you're up here for this trip. A future trip, absolutely. Plus, students haven't been onto campus yet, and so a lot of the a lot of the buildings are locked up. And so Christian was like, oh, bummer. And leave it to Joe. Joe's like, you know what? Whatever. Let's go to the campus and we'll check it out. We'll walk around. We'll see if we can get in, and maybe we can. You never know. Maybe we can actually get into the building and you can see the gym. So we drive to this particular campus and we go to the gym, the rec center, and all the doors are locked. And yet then there was a student athlete coming out. And so the student athlete looks at us and he's like, oh, are you guys trying to get in? And Joe said, well, yeah, I mean, we're looking at different universities. Christian's interested in playing basketball. He's watching the games, blah, blah, blah. And this kid's like, oh, come on in. No worries. I'll let you in. So we go in and I said to the two of them, look, I got to go to the bathroom. You guys go start walking around and I'll find you. And Christian's like, should we be here right now? Are we trespassing? Is this even okay? And Joe said, of course it is. It's okay. Let's just walk around. What's the worst that could happen? So I'm in the bathroom and all of a sudden I get this text message from Joe and it says, come upstairs. We're talking to the coach. I start laughing because I'm like, I love him. He just creates opportunities. And I'm that same way. I will put myself into places and spaces because the opportunities aren't always going to come to you. You have to go to the spaces and the places in order for those opportunities to also be created, right? So I'm like, of course you are. So I walk upstairs, and sure enough, there's Christian, the coach, Joe, they're talking, and I introduced myself. I'm his mom, and they're talking about the team, the way basketball is there. He's asking questions of Christian. We're getting to know one another. We end up with like a 30 to 45-minute tour of the facility because we literally landed there at a perfect time where he could carve it out for us to actually see everything. So at the end of our meeting, and this is where I really want you to listen carefully to this. At the end of our meeting, the coach looks at Christian and he says, "Thank you. Thank you for getting on the plane. Thank you for not just laying on the couch on your days off or going to Mexico, which is truly where I thought we were going to end up. And then I was like, wait a second, we got to do these college, these visits." He said, "Thank you for coming here. Thank you for putting yourself out there." He said, "The worst that could have happened, Christian, is that I would have said no. And by you showing up, it allowed me to then step into this time that you carved out for me to get to know you better and for you to get to know me better." And he said, "When I'm watching you on these tapes now that you're sending me, I can put a face and a body to who you are and will you fit into this team? Is there a way that we can make all of this work?" Right? Because here's the thing. Relationships in this world have become so darn transactional because of phones, right? Texting, emails, Instagram messaging, LinkedIn messaging. Everything has become so transactional. Master classes. You're not even in front of the teacher anymore. And what his point was, it's this: we want to create the connections. And the only way to do that is to be able to be there, to truly create the human to human connection, is to be there in person, to be able to shake the hands, to be able to have the conversation eye to eye, not through the screen even, but literally in the presence of one another. That's how we develop the teams. That's how we develop the growth. We have to descend into the change of relationships, into the challenges of relationships, of team building, not in just a transactional way, but literally descending into it and being able to, I'm going to be talking about this just in a minute, of like one really important piece that so many forget, but being able to really dive in so that we can ascend in agility, in lasting growth, in resilience, in better mindset, in understanding each other, of creating the deeper connection in the long-term relationships, not the short-term relationships where so many of us, right? Like think about just the quitting, right? That just happens. It's about really getting to know one another so that you can develop the growth that we want in this world. And so when the coach said that to him, he was like, "Thank you. Thank you for coming here. What's the worst that could have happened?" But he would have said no, right? "I don't have time for that right now." By him stepping out of his comfort zone and really putting himself into this space, he got to know this coach deeper, and the coach got to know him on a different level as well. So my hope for you in 2025 is that you use this analogy, you use this lesson, you use this experience in your own life moving forward in this year ahead. 2024, for me, like I told you, it was huge. It was a foundation. It was building the bricks for what was next. It was really diving into my messaging, into who I am, my brand, what I want to leave as a legacy in this world. 2025 is already paying off because I did the hard work, and I want you to do the same thing. And huge piece of it, I'm not afraid anymore of putting myself out there. When you can put yourself out there and share, like, this is what I can bring to the table. This is how I can help you grow. Are you ready for this? Here's what I can do for you. Here's where I think that we could really work together and create something that's super cool for you, for your own growth, whatever it is. When we can put ourselves out there and share with other people, this is my gift, this is what I want to give. Is this something that you are ready for, that you also want to tap into right now? When we can put ourselves into that space, we also create opportunities for those teams to become better, right? For the leaders to bring you in so that they can also become better themselves because you're showing up. So you have to show up in this world. And when I was on the plane going to, here's what happens, right? We had just taken off from LA to go to Seattle. And I opened up my computer and I landed a speaking gig. And I was like, dang, this is what all that brick building was about. This is what all that hard work was about. Because it's so exciting. Like, it's so exciting for me to be able to then share the message with others. So I've got that. I'm coaching these leaders in this incredible company that I get to work with, managerial coaching. Super excited about that. We've got some really cool retreats coming up in 2025. And again, I share this with you because I want you to see what's possible in your own life too. When you put yourself into those spaces and places, that opportunities can be created. I had to laugh because Christian was like, is this like, are we okay to even be doing this? Are we trespassing? Like, is this all right? And Joe and I think a lot alike. I don't know, maybe it's because, we came from the same town. We went to high school together. We reconnected after 32 years. So we definitely have that deep bond. We think a lot alike though. It's like, why not? Like, instead of questioning why you shouldn't do something, I think it's more important for us to question why not? Because somebody has to. And if it's not going to be you, it's going to be that other person. And if you want that, then you better step up and make it happen for yourself. Because if you're not going to, somebody else is going to take your spot, right? And that spot, if you truly believe that that spot is yours, then dang it, go after it. So we had an incredible 3 days up there. And my hope is that you take this lesson moving forward in your own life, put yourself into those spaces and places, create the opportunities, develop the relationships, not just transactional, truly develop the relationships that you want. Most importantly, start with that relationship with yourself, right? I always talk about that. The most important relationship that you can have in this world is that one with yourself, and develop that while you're also developing the relationships that you want in your life, personally and professionally. So that steps into something that has been coming up a lot. I did this post on LinkedIn probably 3 weeks ago, and it was about, is forgiveness a professional strength? And I was explaining how forgiveness is such a professional strength that so many of us bypass and we don't use. So I started my brand 11 years ago on the foundation of forgiveness. When I went through everything 11 years ago and my life imploded and I had to do something, so I sold my house, 95% of my stuff. My two younger boys and I moved across the street into a rental, and I started my business. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I started leading retreats in the Grand Canyon because it sounded like fun, and I was like, this could go into a business, right? People thought I was starting a hobby. They thought I was crazy. They thought I literally went cuckoo and off the deep end. And I mean, who does that in their 40s, right? Single mom. Well, somebody has to. Again, somebody has to. Why not create good in the world? Somebody has to. May as well be you. Anyhow, I did a TED Talk on forgiveness, wrote a book on forgiveness. In forgiveness, I even have a tattoo in my mom's handwriting on the side of my arm that says forgive, and she has since passed away. Forgiveness has been a huge piece in my own learning and growth, both in a personal space and a professional space. You know how many times I screwed up in my business and I had to forgive myself? Or how many people literally have screwed me over in my business and I've had to forgive and move on? Because if you're going to hold on to the anger and the grudge, you're not going to move forward. You're literally going to be walking with a ball and chain, holding resentment, beating yourself up without stepping into that best version of you because you're so mad at yourself for the screw up that you did or that somebody did to you. And so I want to step into three important pieces of forgiveness and how it is such an incredible professional strength. This is something that I'm going to be working with when I'm coaching these clients in this company. We are going to be stepping into this because it is huge. People think of it as a spiritual thing. They think of it as like a personal thing. Man, when you can start using it in your professional space, oh, you realize that mistakes happen. Forgive yourself. Keep moving forward. Don't hold on to the grudge or the animosity or the anger, for goodness sakes. So there's three pieces, three ways that forgiveness is so key in the professional world, why it is such a great strength. First of all, in conflict resolution. Number one, conflict resolution. Team members, you are not perfect. Leaders, you are not perfect. Employees, you are not perfect. None of us are perfect. We are perfectly imperfect as we are, or some people say imperfectly perfect, right? We make mistakes. We are human beings. You're not expected to be perfect, first of all. And secondly, other people that you're working with, they're not perfect either. So forgiveness allows individuals to move past conflicts, which we all have, and it helps us to not hold grudges. So when things do go astray, when you've had miscommunication, when somebody has screwed up, you can bring to the surface all of those unresolved or those issues that need to get worked through, and you do it in a constructive way. Forgiveness promotes teamwork. It promotes trust. And most importantly, it promotes collaboration. So it is huge when it comes to conflict resolution because you're not holding judgment. You're seeing the other person as a human being who isn't perfect, right? Because none of us are. And it allows you to create this healthy conversation that then only deepens the relationship and builds better teams. That goes into number two. Forgiveness improves relationships. The most important relationship, again, number one most important relationship that you can have is that one with yourself. You will never step into being a better leader if you can't forgive yourself for the mistakes that you make along the way, because you are going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes, plenty of them. I've been called out on my mistakes. When I have been leading retreats and people question me and they're like, why are you doing it this way? There's a reason I do things a certain way. And yet it's about taking that pause, not reacting, but responding, literally sitting in the pause and questioning. Good leaders will question, why are they asking me that? And the best leaders will have the conversation about the questions that people have about who you are and how you are doing what you are doing. And so when you can have that good conversation with those people that are questioning you, when you can literally look at every single thing, not as a criticism, but it's about learning. When you can learn to also forgive yourself for the mistakes and the ways that you do things or have done things, you're only going to grow into the better leader that you were intended to be, right? And that creates better team members. You will become a better team member yourself. So it truly improves the relationships. Forgiveness improves the relationships. The number one most important relationship is with yourself. So learn to forgive yourself in the mistakes that you make. Learn to forgive that you don't know everything, because you don't, and you never will. So don't expect yourself to. It maintains the trust, right? But most importantly, it promotes long-term professional relationships. Because again, so much in this world is transactional. We have gone through that whole space of quiet quitting, right? And a lot of people do quit, or they're like, I'm not going to work the whole time because why should I, right? Like, why should I? That's the big thing. And so it literally will start to dissolve the grudges and allow those people in your teams, in your businesses, your corporations, your organizations, It deepens the relationships, it promotes growth, and it allows people to better understand one another along the way. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is conflict resolution. It helps with that. The second thing, it improves the relationships. Most importantly, though, this is the most important thing. Forgiveness, it is huge. It promotes growth. Because so often people will be afraid to step up and say something, to give their advice, to give their 2 cents. They're afraid to try new things. They're afraid to make mistakes because they think they're going to get yelled at, or what's even worse, fired, right? Or demoted. When we can promote forgiveness, when we can promote the learning that comes from the mistakes, right? People won't be so afraid to put themselves out there to try new things, to think outside of the box, to get creative with your business, to say, hey, have we thought about trying it this way? They're not going to be afraid that they're going to be judged or ridiculed because you're fostering a culture of understanding, you're fostering a culture of growth through that space of forgiveness. I promise you that you will develop more resilience. You will be so much more adaptable through your changes and your challenges when you use the space of use the space of forgiveness in the professional world it's such a strength, right? And so I think that, I think that for so many of us, we've looked at forgiveness as simply a personal thing. Right? I know for so long people have thought that if I forgive, it means I have to forget. That's not true. When somebody wrongs you or when something happens, forgiveness is simply a space where you're saying, I don't like what happened, right? Let's learn from it. Let's create growth from it. It's not condoning it. It's not saying it was okay. It's literally creating a space of learning and growth, and that's it. So those are the big things. Conflict resolution, it improves relationships, and it also encourages the growth. It promotes the growth within the company. When mistakes are forgiven, people are more likely to learn and learn from them without fear of that judgment. It fosters personal and professional growth. You create resilience. You're more adaptable to the changes and the challenges along the way. So if you don't know how to bring forgiveness into your professional world, reach out to me. I'd love to teach you because this is my jam space and I love it. It's something that it's interesting. I was talking with one of the coaches about building teams, right? When we were walking through the campus, we were talking about building teams, and he said something that stuck with me. He said, when the core of a team starts to dissolve, when they start to bicker, when you start to see the fighting happening, you notice that people play more individually instead of through that connective whole. And when you aren't working in that connective whole, when you aren't playing in a connective whole as a business within teams, you can't grow, you don't rise because it becomes such an individual thing. And so when you can forgive somebody for the mistake, you're literally getting back to what we want, which is that whole. Because you're saying like, hey, you're human. It's okay. I make mistakes too, right? Develops better leaders, personal leaders, professional leaders, individual, which then only allows us to rise into the greatest space that we were always intended, which is whatever it is for you, professional growth, personal growth, profitable growth, like really creating a greater impact in this world. So if you are looking for somebody to talk to your organization about forgiveness, I am happy to. That said, my keynotes, I'm super excited about it. Like I said, I ended up getting a new keynote just recently. It was on the 2nd of January. Super excited about delivering that. It's exciting what's going to be happening in 2025. I'm so excited that you're here with me on this journey. And for me, it's about using the Grand Canyon as a metaphor, descending into our challenges, into our change, and ascending in agility, lasting growth, resilience, better mindset, deeper relationships, better teams, right? And really creating what we were intended all along. So if this has touched you, please share it with your friends, share it with your employees, with your colleagues. If you're going to put it into social media, tag me so I can reshare. And if you have not yet, please go subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Push it out into your world so that we can create and ripple this into the world for others as well. If you have a question about this, Sara at sarahschultencrans.com. Message me. I'd love to help you along the way. Go into my website, sarahschultencrans.com, and you will find everything in there that you could possibly want in the work that we create in this world as well. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here. And 2025, what's it mean for you? What is your canyon? What are you going to be walking through? And just remember, the way out is forward. Thank you for being here.